Today is another episode on forgiveness and business. We are going to talk about building resilience through forgiveness, which guides us to overcoming business setbacks. Now, have you thought about forgiveness helping you build resilience? Well, it can, especially in overcoming these business setbacks. Some of you may think that resilience is just a buzzword, yet in the business world, it's more. If you're resilient in business, you can bounce back from these setbacks, adapt to change, and keep moving forward with hope and determination. The best way to help build that resilience is by using the powerful tool of forgiveness, which includes forgiving yourself as you grow. Hang in here and let me explain what I mean. Hi, I'm Brenda Reese, freedom and forgiveness coach, and a person just like you that is learning to navigate life and all of its challenges. I teach a forgiveness process like no other. It's a blend of practical and spiritual forgiveness. This process guides you into knowing how unforgiveness can be keeping you stuck in your relationships, both personally and professionally, and how it prevents you from releasing resentment and finding joy. Each week, I share practical and some not so practical tips, tools, and advice from myself and other people that are on this journey just like us. This is for you if you are ready to turn your pain into peace. Welcome to the Forgive Yourself podcast. So, forgiveness can be a superpower. Forgiveness often feels, like a personal act. But it's deeply connected to every aspect of our lives, including our professional journey. We have all heard that when we embrace forgiveness, we free ourselves from the burden of the past mistakes, and it opens the door to new opportunities, right? We've all heard that. So how does that play out in the business world? Okay, setbacks in business are inevitable. They will happen no matter how hard we work to prevent them. And in environments where a setback is unavoidable, learning to forgive ourselves and to forgive others is the key to overcoming those failures and keeping our business thriving. This is what makes forgiveness a superpower. So what kind of business setbacks actually build us up and make us more resilient? Let's look at a few. We've got financial loss, right? Failed projects, missed opportunities, conflicts with a business partner or a colleague, or even personal conflicts within a team. These can all be disheartening and make us question our abilities and decisions. We often emotionally respond to these so-called failures in different ways, but generally, we feel disappointment, frustration, guilt, maybe shame, and self-doubt. Some of those also so-called failures may not be as obvious. The ones where we constantly are our worst critic. Anybody have that? Where setbacks happen because we can't get to the place to forgive others or ourselves and allow the growth we need to move forward. When we allow ourselves to let those negative thoughts that we may have grown up with be what defines us and our business decisions. So when we allow ourselves to let those negative thoughts run the show, we need to realize that we may be contributing to these additional setbacks. So many of these feelings and emotions I want to share with you are natural. We're human, for Pete's sake, and the ideas and thoughts of others throughout our lives do shape us. And when it comes to our business dealings, it's even more personal. After all, we pour our hearts and our souls into our businesses. And when things don't go as planned, it's really easy to be hard on ourselves. So what would it look like if we stopped being so hard on ourselves because something set us back and instead recognize setbacks as inevitable parts of the journey from which we can grow? What if we stopped looking at setbacks as indicators of our worth or potential, but more as the stepping stones we need to propel us toward learning and growth. Just imagine that for a moment. What would it look like if we weren't so hard on ourselves? What if we didn't look at these setbacks as part of our worth? Well, to be able to do this, we have to look at how does self-forgiveness play into this? Now, you know I'm all about self-forgiveness because in my world, all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness is letting go of the self-blame and negative self-talk that often follows a setback. It's about acknowledging the mistake, understanding the context, and permitting yourself to move on without guilt and shame. Instead of beating ourselves up for the setback, we can learn to embrace it as part of the process we grow from. Self-forgiveness is also essential for our mental health. When we forgive ourselves, we reduce our stress and anxiety, and we open ourselves to more creativity and productive thinking. This shift in our mindset allows us to see failures as learning opportunities rather than judgments on our abilities. Right? So how many of you, when you are consumed with stress and anxiety, are upset that you can't get the ideas going, that you can't be as creative, you feel stuck? That's what I'm talking about. So self-forgiveness can help us maintain that positive outlook and stay motivated and build the resilience needed to navigate the ups and downs of business. So, what stops us from forgiving ourselves and others? Oh, well, let's talk about these, okay? Because there are several barriers that business leaders often face. The first is perfectionism, which is the belief that we must always succeed and never make mistakes, or we can't even be okay with others making mistakes. And this makes forgiveness difficult. When we hold ourselves or others to an unrealistic standard, we set ourselves up for disappointment and self-criticism. A forgiveness process can help to identify the reasons behind this perfectionism. You're not born with this. This is learned. It's a safety mechanism a lot of the time. Now, the second one is fear of accountability. Some might fear that forgiving themselves or others will mean they're not taking responsibility for their actions and others are not held responsible. However, forgiveness is not about avoiding accountability. It's actually learning to accept responsibility and accountability for your part in not only a constructive way, but in a very compassionate way. So that there is learning from this experience and moving forward more peacefully, whether forgiving someone else or yourself. Now, the third barrier can be cultural expectations. In many business cultures, there's an emphasis on toughness and unwavering success. Admitting to mistakes and forgiving oneself can be seen as a sign of weakness, even though it's a sign of strength and self-awareness. No one thrives for very long in a culture like this and have any sense of happiness or fulfillment. More studies are coming out about workplace environments not being healthy because they do not encourage open communication and collaboration. And a lot of people are saying, no, I don't want to be in that environment. And I agree. And the fourth barrier is a big one. Deep-seated guilt. Guilt can be a persistent and heavy feeling. It can stem from personal values, past experiences, or the impact of our action on others. Overcoming this guilt requires a deep level of introspection and compassion towards oneself. Now, these are only a few barriers, but can you relate to any of those four? Have you had any experience with any of them? I'd love to know. So please contact me because I'd like to know if these resonate with you or not. Now, let's talk about ways that you can cultivate forgiveness in your workplace. Cultivating forgiveness, whether for yourself or others, is a journey. I'm going to remind you, it's always a journey and a process. And like any journey, it does begin with small intentional steps. Now, I know we want to make big leaps. Yet, this is important enough to focus and concentrate on taking smaller steps. So let's talk about some ways that we can start. Number 1, mindfulness. This is practicing being present in the moment without judgment. This is the most calming and freeing gift you can give yourself. Mindfulness helps you observe your thoughts and feelings without getting caught up in them. This awareness is the first step towards recognizing and addressing negative self-talk, because we really can't recognize it if we're not stopping to really hear it or understand it. Now, you just start with slowing down. I was told years ago by a doctor, my naturopath at the time, that to help me heal my adrenal fatigue that I was going through, that slowing down my body, meaning physically slowing down my body, meaning my walking, would help to slow down the thoughts. And I thought, that's super crazy. And she said they were connected. I walked fast, right? I walked fast. I thought fast, always in a hurry, which was meaning I was very stressed, hence burning out my adrenals. So what I did was I started by telling myself, yes, I had to talk out loud to myself because, this in my head is a neighborhood that's a little scary. And I was telling myself all sorts of things. So I had to talk out loud to myself that I needed to slow down while I walked to the bathroom. I started small. Living room to bathroom. Slow down. Now to quiet my mind, I counted my steps. 1, 2. No, I'm not saying this is easy. It's not. And I still have to remind myself today. But I counted my steps. And sometimes I learned that I would intentionally take deep breaths. So not only the steps, but I actually would take deep breaths because go figure, when you're stressed, do you know you breathe shallowly? Yeah. So slowing down, counting the steps, this is quite the experience. Breathing deeper when I had been breathing shallow was quite the experience, but it changed me. So try it and let me know what you think. Now, number 2 ways that we can cultivate forgiveness is reflection. So when we reflect on the situation that led us to the setback, we can then take a look at what were the circumstances. How did we feel about it? Who was involved? What did you learn about yourself and any others involved? Reflection helps you gain perspective and understand that mistakes, or so-called mistakes, are part of learning. It can also show you where you have had that same feeling or behavior before, which this can actually identify a pattern. Because when you take a look at and you reflect on situations that are bothering you or where you feel that you failed or had a setback, then you can look at other things in your life. Where have I felt the same way? And you can start to see a pattern. And then you can also reflect on the new behavior you want to make a habit of to move forward. Now, number 3 is seeking feedback. So when we get feedback from trusted mentors, right, or colleagues, want to be careful there, the trusted, like even therapists or coaches or especially mentors. When we can talk to them about our experience, they can offer us valuable insights and remind you of your strength. Often, we are harsher on ourselves than others are. And we don't see ourselves clearly sometimes, do we? Not until we've done a lot of introspection. Number 4 is have some self-compassion. Now, you do this by treating yourself with the kindness and understanding you would offer a friend. I know you've heard this before, but it's true. Now, this, my friend, is a practice unto itself because we are so harsh on ourselves. And learning to talk to ourselves nicely does take effort and it takes time. And acknowledging, so this way we can acknowledge our efforts and we can recognize that everyone makes mistakes or has setbacks, that we're not alone. So I challenge you, next time you go by a mirror, I want you to say, hey, you, or hi, friend. See how that changes. See what it does. Number 5, set realistic goals. Now, this seems to be a challenge for most of us because we have a mind that tells us all the sorts of things that we have to accomplish. We are a very goal-driven society, right? Yet, we can learn to adjust our expectations to align with our reality, accepting that perfection is unattainable and striving for it will only lead to more frustration. So we can really set realistic goals instead of saying, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in the next 10 days. It might take a little longer than that, but I can start with one simple step: drinking more water. All right, number 6, getting professional support. All right, sometimes working through guilt and self-blame does require some extra help, and it does require some professional guidance. Because I'm saying a lot of this runs deep. We've carried it with us throughout our life, and there's good reason that we have it. So don't hesitate to seek the help of a coach or a therapist who can support you on your journey to self-forgiveness. So we have talked about understanding setbacks in business. We've talked about the role of self-forgiveness in overcoming setbacks, the barriers to forgiveness in business, and we've talked about practical steps you can take to cultivate forgiveness in your workplace. Now let's chat a little bit about how to build a resilient business culture. Fostering a culture of forgiveness within your organization can significantly enhance overall resilience. When employees feel safe to admit mistakes and learn from them, it creates a supportive and innovative environment. So here's how you can encourage this culture as a leader. Number 1, lead by example. As a leader, demonstrate forgiveness in your actions. Share your experiences with setbacks and how you've moved past them. This vulnerability can inspire your team to do the same. The second one is encourage open communication. Create a safe space for employees to discuss their mistakes and challenges. Encourage this open and honest conversation without fear of retribution. A lot of employees feel that today, that they have a fear of retribution, so they don't share. The third one is focus on learning. So shifting the focus from blame, they did something wrong, to learning. When setbacks occur, facilitate discussions on what can be learned and how processes can be improved. Try that instead. The fourth one is celebrate efforts. So acknowledge your team's efforts and progress, even if the results are unexpected. Celebrating efforts reinforces the idea that trying and learning are more important than succeeding. Number 5, provide resources. Offer training and resources on emotional intelligence, stress management, mindfulness, and forgiveness. Equip your team with the tools they need to navigate setbacks effectively. And most importantly, don't be afraid to seek out resources yourself. So keep in mind that setbacks in business and life are inevitable. However, they do not have to be debilitating. When you embrace forgiveness, you can transform failures into opportunities for growth and resilience. You create a culture that doesn't fear failing, and it presses on, right, to succeed. Forgiveness is not a personal act. It's not just a personal act. It's a powerful tool that can enhance your mental health, improve your business performance, and create a more resilient organization that makes everyone happier. The kinder you are to yourself, the more resilient you'll become. Don't hesitate to ask for professional support if you find it challenging. My heart desires to provide personalized guidance and support to help you cultivate forgiveness and resilience. It's a journey we can take together that leads to empowerment and resilience that will help you thrive in your business and in your life. Let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you try any of the steps offered here, or maybe you're already doing some, I would love to know what kind of results you have, how you feel about them. I really would love to know. And until next time, take care. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, would you do me a favor and share this episode and then follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss one episode of the Forgive Yourself podcast, where every Friday you will get tips, tools, and stories so that you can turn your pain into peace. Take care.